going, guys? Dylan from If Cars Could Talk, and I hope you can hear me, and I hope you're doing well today. Today I have gone now to Stuttgart, obviously in Germany, and we are at the Mecca of Porsche because, well, this is essentially kind of the beginning of them. As you can see, we have one of the main dealerships of Stuttgart Porsche here. We have, well, the museum and the factory just behind me, and then we have a monument of, well, suspended Porsches, and the brand new one, by the way, 911, suspended Porsches just hanging for their dear lives. Now, unfortunately, like I have in the past when I took you to Italy with me, I wasn't able to bring you to the factories of, well, Lamborghini, Ferrari, and Pagani, and I can't do the same here today because I know I'm a secret spy and I'll sell their information. So what I am going to do is walk you around, well, the museum, which just has some of the most significant Porsches you'll ever come across in your life. So it ends up being better because instead of seeing one disassembled and you can't really tell what the hell it is, you get to see some really significant ones in whole pieces. Stay tuned, guys. We're going to take you for the full tour. Alright, so we are just in the main entry here, and already you can see some crazy Porsches just behind the window. But we won't go there yet. In addition to that, just some cool little Porsche things. They just have like cars sitting on rails here. Very nerdy Porsche stuff. And then a gift shop where I just spent a lot of crap earlier. We briefly got to check this out. Some really, really cool stuff. Porsche F1 right there, pretty crazy to see that. Obviously such a Le Mans famous brand. A really cool 944 here and some racing decals, maybe a lap car, and then in addition to that, a 924 Carrera GT and a 550 Spider just over there. Alright guys, so we have arrived, and no, I'm not in the Matrix. I understand I'm in a giant white perfect German room, and it's filled with very significant Porsches and some other things along the way that maybe added to, well, the history of Porsche in general. And I'm not exactly obviously going to be entirely informed on all of these cars, but I am going to pretend I am by looking at the writing below that you can't see. Alright, now yes, I understand this doesn't have, well, the round Porsche headlights or that curvaceous shape. In fact, it looks more like a chariot being carried by a horse. But the interesting thing is what carries this is an electric motor. In fact, Porsche actually came out with one of the first electric motors, and this is from 1898. Pretty insane to see. Okay, so this is very interesting and relevant to today because I don't know if any of you can recognize this shape. You won't recognize the color, and no, it's not exactly on wheels, I would say, but this is the Type 64, and what was significant about that is, well, that was the auction car of 2019 for Monterey Car Week, the thing that, well, Sotheby's totally screwed up and it didn't end up selling. But regardless, it's considered, well, one of the first Porsches ever made. Some say it's arguable because it had, well, Volkswagen components in the original one, but the thing for me is I don't care what they say because you see all the Porsche characteristics in there. 356 Roadster. That's kind of crazy. Wow, look at the spec on this. Orange and black. It's so cool. Another 356, another one over here, and it just follows a chain of, well, the significant 356s in their generations there. But this is what we want to look at. Porsche 550 Spider, obviously with a racing history. This thing is so crazy. Went on the Pan America. This is a 718 Formel 2. I don't know how I figured that out, obviously, yeah. Pretty crazy as well. Also, it's kind of insane seeing something like this with a Porsche steering wheel. Alright, next is a 718 Spider. This is crazy. I mean, you would never really even see these cars in person. Speaking of which, a 906, an incredibly legendary Le Mans car. And look how it's the original plastic back here. It's kind of yellowed over time. And then last one in this section is a 904 Carrera GTS. Pretty cool just to see the sticker badge, and especially the old styled one. So you don't see this every day. A levitating Porsche race car. Wow. You can see it's made of fiberglass as well. Obviously no carbon back then. And this is in its bare body construction, so no paint, nothing on it. Alright, so we've just left the, I guess you could say pre-9/11 area over there. 356s mainly, and significant old Porsche race cars. But now we're really going on to the 911s and, well, additional race cars. But before that, I should hold my tongue because there's a Porsche tractor over here. Now, many of you may know of it. Obviously speaking, Lamborghini made tractors, and Porsche also did before they made sports cars. So cool to see this. It's weird to see a Porsche badge on this. Alright, so here we have obviously the early 911s. There's a coupe and a Targa. Obviously Targa had the silver little pole going through here, basically for crash safety. They actually thought they were going to get rid of convertibles originally. Alright, so if this wall is any consolation to what you're about to see, this is just madness. Literally some of the most significant Porsche race Le Mans cars ever. Oh my god. So first of all, the legendary 917. Let's keep walking around. A 908 coupe. Yes, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm reading signs. Bear with me. Look how the body narrows like this. What a... You know, the funny thing about Le Mans cars, I mean, race cars today, you kind of miss it in race cars today because you have so much of the aerodynamic crap, the fins, all this stuff. It actually makes the cars ugly. The funny thing about these older Le Mans cars, they're curvaceous, they're beautiful. Oh my, this is just ridiculous. And some of them even look like concepts, honestly. So here is a Porsche 917 PA Spider. Beautiful and white. No decals on it whatsoever. Exposed engine here. Wow. And the condition of these cars is crazy. They've obviously been sparing in what they keep original. Some of the plastics, things like that. Things that don't need to be replaced. And all of you probably know this car, another 917, but with the Golf livery on it. Right next is another 917. This is basically the 917 section, in case you haven't noticed. I'm missing all of them. I'm like losing my mind right now, but let's just walk over kind of these liveries because it's so cool. This is a Martini one, so we had the Golf, now we're on to the Martini. Don't worry, we're gonna go there in a second. I have ADD. This is probably one of my favorite liveries. I almost bought an overpriced t-shirt with this same pattern on it in the Porsche store earlier. Luckily I saved my change. I bought a model instead. But look at this. Just nuts. Alright, here's another 917. The shape doesn't get old. And you know what the funny thing is? No matter what color set it's on, no matter what livery it's on, it just looks so cool. There's another Martini livery. I feel like I'm gonna have a count on how many times I say the flipping word livery, but livery, awesome, really. Honestly, just have to applaud Porsche for what they did with this place. It is such a nice setup. It's very congruent the way you kind of go through the history of Porsche as well. I'm sure it was a nightmare just trying to set this place up, but pure white setting, and then you just have the colors popping everywhere, which is so nice to see. Don't hold your breath, but yes, believe it or not, this is the last 917 I'm going to show you. Insane to see so many 917s in one place. Porsche did a good job in getting their hands on these. This is, I think, my favorite livery, honestly. It's kind of wild, fun, playful, funky. And it's got these cool little lines. Just talked to you about the displays Porsche was doing earlier, how these lines just curve into the car. So, I did lie. Here is a 917 again, without the body, so you can kind of see what it looked like exposed underneath. You notice anything wrong? Oh, wonder how it's suspended here. So this is a Porsche 956 race car, upside down. Right, so now we're into 911s, a little more conservative, I guess you could say, from these crazy spaceship looking race cars. This is off a 930 turbo. This is an RSR, and it's badass. It's got wide arches, a big tail, everything you want. Now here's a pretty significant car. We have a 917 Can-Am, a car you probably know, not only from the decals and the shape, but this is the Porsche Audi partner race car. All right, now to celebrate Porsche's 917-ness, which there was a lot of, as you can tell, they actually made a really cool concept car. Kind of looks like a 918 and a 917 had a baby in the future. Check it out. This thing is really rad. I don't know if it's a functional prototype, but these are actually the 918 pre-production wheels we remember, or the non-Wysack ones you would see. It's got the 918 headlights as well. It's kind of cool how you have the exposed suspension in the front here. Wow, look at that. This is really pretty. As you guys can see, there's a bit more to see. So we'll just go through these quickly. I'm going to kind of choose the ones stand out to me. Obviously, I have a 944, and I'm a nerd for those. This is a 924 Carrera GTS. The Carrera GT was obviously the faster version of the 924. It's a rare car. Magnus just got one. And the race version, actually, you can tell by the exposed headlights. This is a pretty epic car. So this is obviously a 959 from the Paris-Dakar race. Reason why: dirt race, lifted car, dirt tires. This is basically meant to, well, off-road. Kind of ironic, because this is the 918 Carrera GT of its day, and it's off-roading. You can imagine, well, the hypercars of today doing anything like that. Not sure what this is. It looks like to be based on a 959. It's called the Porsche 961. Similar Rotham's livery, and wow, super cool. Let's go around and check these two out. This is so cool. Not sure where they want people to be walking around. I don't know if I'm allowed to be behind there. I don't know if I'm supposed to go in that order. I'm a horrible, horrible tour guide. Leave in the comments if you have any tips. 60s RS, beautiful. 914s. Obviously the Boxster of its day. The Moby Dick. This is great. I grew up looking at pictures of this. So this is a 935 codename Moby Dick. They actually just did the reintroduction of this on the new 911. It was based on that. You guys have maybe seen conceptual images of it, or the prototype. It's pretty awesome, but wow, this thing's so cool. You have the popular trends with the safari cars. Here it is with the headlights, everything like that. God, there's so much to look at. 924, this is really cool. Wow, and a pearl with red interior, funky interior. It's like a zip on the freaking steering wheel. That's crazy. So this is a Carrera GT Study, not entirely sure. Pretty cool though. Speedster, 928. Interesting, on Turbo S wheels. These are not the correct wheels, I don't think. But don't tell Porsche that. Wow, this is cool. For a 944 guy, this is cool. So this is a Cabriolet, a Studi. I'm assuming in German that's some sort of prototype. I'm not sure. Maybe it's a real one, but the color is absolutely mega. This thing is so cool. It's so funky. Alright, we can't walk past this. A Porsche 959. Obviously, well, the original Porsche hypercar, so to speak, before the Carrera GT and the 918. And well, these are based off that car, so these are kind of some race variants. And moving forward, this isn't an ordinary speedster. So it's basically, this is a prototype they did, and it has a really cool cutaway, almost race-inspired window here where you have the other half closed off. This thing is nuts. Look at that. I can't believe I'm seeing this in person. I've seen the race cars. Here's some trophies. Wow. Anyway, moving on, we were back at 911s. We kind of had a little taste of the 70s and 80s back there with the 928s, 924s, 944s, and these are the 964s. Got a cool 993 race car. Alright, now going to this strange looking thing. Now you're probably thinking, it's not strange, that's a Boxster. In fact, this is the Boxster prototype. And just to give you a short history on, well, the Boxster, think of it like a post 944, 968, kind of the affordable alternative to the 911. And this is just a really funky version of the Boxster. The prototype obviously has some different styled taillights. bolted wheels, a crazy looking interior. I don't know if you can notice these little air vents in here, but that's super funky. And yeah, basically this killed it for Porsche, and it was during a time where, well, they were kind of going through some difficult times, and this saved them. Quick, a very red 968, basically the car after the 944. The race car here, a police 993, kind of hilarious. Obviously some exotic car companies will give, well, their police forces some charitable cars. Lamborghini's done it for, well, Italy, and Saudi Arabia has a flipping Bugatti Veyron, but this is a Porsche. So I was thinking this thing looks a little bit different. 996 with, well, notice how high the roof line is. This was for the Cars movie. This is Sally Carrera. Now you know with the eyes here, but wow, I didn't know they actually made this. Next is a Porsche GT1, very successful race car for Porsche as well, obviously post 917s and everything like that. 997, not my favorite. I really actually hate the 997. I don't want to hear the Porsche people hear that though. Okay, anyway, moving on, my favorite car ever, the Porsche Carrera GT. I think this thing looks as pretty with the roof on as it does with it off, and I think it could also be made today. I don't think the 918 necessarily outshines this in any way, shape, or form. And you know what? It's got a manual gearbox and a legend behind it as well. Unfortunately, from the people, it's killed, but you know, other than that, pretty unbelievably beautiful. Alright, now we can't forget the Cayenne. Obviously, you have things like a Boxster and the Cayenne, which are sacrilege to Porsche guys. They always want a 911, but at the same time, Porsche's got to be a company that sells bloody cars and sells enough of them. This is obviously the Cayenne Trans-Siberia. It's kind of a special edition they did. There's an even more modern day. We talked about the GT1 being kind of a more modern Le Mans winning car. Here is the RS Spider, kind of Porsche's reintroduction to Le Mans. They had left for many, many years after quite a bit of success. In fact, we started buying Porsches again when they started racing again. Alright, now we are back on to more race cars. These are specifically 911s. Obviously, we always think about Le Mans cars, and well, this is another Le Mans car, but a different class, obviously. This is a GT3 RSR, and then I have a bunch of GT3s over here, to a rotating 997, to the 991, and then the GT4 Club Sport. Obviously with the hybrid engines in these, kind of funky now to think about that. GT3 Cup is really cool. One thing I love about it is just this kind of funky hump over here just under the tail. You lose those little extra fins. Exclusive car. You could have gone through Porsche through their race program. This is obviously the race variant, but you could get a Club Sport as well. And then one of the most modern, the RSR. This thing is just badass, with the same livery we saw in that 917, kind of a harkening back, a nod to that car. This thing is so sick. Look. Just a quick note, obviously this is the car we saw earlier in the beginning, the shell with all the brushed aluminum. This is the car I was talking about, the Type 64 that went for auction and didn't. So I've done a horrible job of reading the signs, but this is 2010 and up. And then now we have another thing that was a risk for Porsche, the Panamera, the four-door sedan. How dare them? And it's done quite well as well. The original one a little bit zucchini-like, but it is such a cool car and a successful one for them. In addition to that, we have a 918, the car after the Carrera GT, and a cool little detail on it obviously is the exhaust that just come out of the ceiling basically. And then the Macan, the little smaller Cayenne obviously, and then this, the Mission E concept off of the Taycan, the electric little sedan that they just brought out to fight Tesla with. And this thing's pretty awesome looking. It basically looks like it's from the future, and I think electric cars always have to, right? So they've achieved that very well. This is kind of cool. You can rev a 911. Look at that. Alright, so I'm lost yet again. Here is a chain of rare 911s, and by the way, just look at that view. It's so cool. So we got a 930 turbo cab, but this is one of my favorites. I like these weird rare turbo S's, and people didn't really know these even existed, whether it be the 993 turbo S or our 944 turbo S. This is a 964 turbo S, actually from LA, the Peterson, all the way here in Germany. I actually saw this at Porsche and Pastries. Yes, that's a real event. And it's really cool. You got the yellow seat backs. I just really like this thing. And they're so rare too. Alright guys, and last here is a 996 Carrera, and it looks all friendly and girlish in this metallic turquoise, but it's actually bulletproof, windows and all, and it's surprisingly one of the lightest armored cars ever made. Obviously low demand for it, pretty expensive to make, so they really didn't make any of them, but cool to see regardless. Alright, so you say you end up seeing some 911s driving on the road. Well, this is the millionth one. Porsche did a special little thing for this in a British racing green, houndstooth interiors, silver mirrors, silver door handles. It's a funky little spec, and wow, wood on the steering wheel. I haven't seen that. Gold script as well, kind of harkening back to the old scripts that you would see on the early 911s. That graded grille you saw, well, starting with the 50th anniversary. Alright, so Porsche has some pretty crazy race cars and some pretty cool cars too, and racing is a huge thing for them, specifically at the Nürburgring. This is where obviously everyone gets their benchmarks tested, and that's, well, where you're able to see how impressive your car really is and what it stacks up to. Now this one has a 5-minute, 19-second lap. I mean, this is just insane. And it's all on a hybrid engine. So no longer is the winner a combustion engine. It's called the 919 Tribute, and it's pretty crazy to be in front of it.